Hello, it's Paul.
And it's Megan.
And we're back.
Yes, part 2 of our first time buyer special.
When we say we're back, we're also back with Tzana and Aileen for part 2.
Yes.
There was so many nuggets last time. We split this into 2 episodes. This is the second part.
Yeah.
And it's as good as the first, if not better.
It absolutely is. So if you had any questions about the buying process that weren't answered in the first part, hopefully they'll be answered in this part.
I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. So without further ado, here is part 2.
So once an offer has been accepted, let's say that.
Right, we've got the offer, right? Offer's accepted.
What happens next?
Right, okay. Offer's accepted. The solicitor will immediately say to you, right, great news, offer accepted. Go and have a very small aperitif this evening. And you can't have too many because you're now going to be a home buyer and you can't blow the budget. So you then, the first thing the buyer should do is get in touch with their mortgage advisor immediately and get the mortgage advisor to get in touch with the lawyer because we can give the information that they need. And then you actually, the buyer doesn't, they'll get a copy of the offer, copy of the conditions. And then they won't hear an awful lot.
Yeah, that's important, isn't
and
it? So
that
they
is
should
very
expect it to go a little quiet, but don't assume that's a bad thing.
Don't worry, because we're beavering away in the background. And then we will write to you with a copy of the title. I mean, we won't just buy the house, and say to you, right, okay, you've bought a house, but you don't know what you bought.
So explain what a copy of a title is for those that may
we'll send
not know.
you a report in the title.
Right.
And a report in the title is really to say your flat is that, the eastmost top floor flat in George Street. The price is X, and the conditions attaching to that title deed are X, Y, and Z. And it's like you have, here's what your share of liability for maintenance for the stair, the roof, and all that sort of stuff. We also check if there are any outstanding planning applications. The solicitor checks, because we cross-check with the home report, and the solicitor checks all the alterations documentation.
So any implications of anything, you'll be flagging it, saying, look, by the way, this is a bit unusual,
this is a bit unusual.
Blah, blah, blah.
And I also say, look, there's this, and this, but don't worry.
Yeah.
That's under control, because that's what you pay me to do.
Sure.
You pay me to make sure that everything is in order. And we can always tell you when it's not. But don't panic if you don't hear anything, because remember, you've got lots and lots of work, you're doing lots and lots of things. And then, sorry Tzana, then you'll get, and in between this, you get a written acceptance from the other side. We'll go over the written acceptance.
Is that binding at that point?
Nope, it is not binding until the contract is legally concluded in writing. Either party may withdraw. And that's where we're getting more like the English system.
Yes.
Because we've got this chain business. So if I give example of one today, I'm buying one, not today, but it's completing, lawyers settling.
Moving in.
Moving in. Well, no, not necessarily. Completing.
Yes,
And I always think settling, sometimes people think that's actually settlement. They've got a building problem. Settling means the completion date, the keys date. And I've got one that is completing next Friday. And we haven't concluded the contract yet.
So the uncertainty's still there?
Oh. It's still there.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And it will still be there because the people that we've sold to, they have sold to somebody else. So the person at the bottom of the chain, they trigger the whole thing. So I can't legally commit my people to buying their new house. It's not a good situation. It's very stressful for buyers. But 99% of the time, it just all comes together. So most solicitors will raise an issue if there is. And actually, no news is good news. Because if you don't hear from them. But then the process is you get... And the other thing you've got to remember is the solicitor gets the mortgage papers. They will send you a copy of the mortgage papers to say, check them. As far as the financial bits of that are concerned, you need to speak to your interest rates and that. You need to speak to your financial advisor. And the solicitor are the money people. The money comes from the mortgage lender to the solicitor. The deposit, including the fees, the outlays, that's disbursements, that's charges to others, and everything. And any deposit, generally solicitors will want that a minimum of 2 working days before you're due to pay for the house.
Sure. Just one thing just to raise there, Aileen. You mentioned that there can be a chain, as you were describing it, up the way. So the person that the first time buyer is buying off might be buying off somebody else who's buying off somebody else, and so on. I guess that would be flagged early, would it? Would you get to know that early on?
Absolutely.
Not all the time. Have you been in? I've been in a couple of them where I'm like, wait, what's happening? Why hasn't this one concluded? And all of a sudden we're. That's on the basis that everybody's talking.
We're trying to get our charter firms to just be
professionally, you should be completely transparent.
And you just don't know how long sometimes the chains are.
And sometimes
I think
things
in
change,
fact
don't they?
there is a Law Society rule that you have not to mislead other agents.
Yeah.
Now, the Edinburgh legal profession is really quite small.
Yeah.
And if somebody starts to do something that's just not quite right and doesn't say,
know.
we all know,
Yeah.
and your card is marked 100%, and it doesn't work. I'll lift the phone to Zane, Zane will lift the phone to me and say, hi, how are you doing? Listen, we have an issue.
You all want the same.
You have an issue. You want the same. You're all to the same. The other thing is to tell your solicitor as early as you can if you have a LISA. Some license providers say they need 30 days to get the money, notice to get the money, and you can scrabble around a bit at the end. The Help to Buy ISA has now been withdrawn. It was withdrawn a wee while ago.
Shame that, really.
It is a shame, really, because but you couldn't. In many ways, it was a wee bit out of date, because if you bought a property over 250,000, you didn't get your bonus.
I think I was going to mention as well, like one of the things when Aileen was talking about how it goes quiet, it doesn't need to go quiet for you as a buyer, because I think your job is then to get onto your mortgage advisor and to fill out all the paperwork, because you have things to do with them. And I think so many people are just like, great, wait to hear from my solicitor. No. You have lots to do. You have lots to do. You have, pay slips to get over to them. You have, if they say jump, you definitely say how high in any capacity to get those information. So you get it over to them in a timely manner. I probably just started talking really fast because I'm passionate about that, because it's so difficult. I see so many transactions that are not completing until the day of, or not concluding missives and settling until our projected date of entry, because the offer of loan isn't through. And on that, I'm going, what have we been doing this entire time? And it's just being aware, like, are you if the mortgage advisor has asked you for pay slips, get them over to him as quickly as possible. If you are being gifted money, this is very important. Let me say this again. If your parents, friends, families, aunts, uncles, grandmas, and grandpas are giving you money, that is a gift. That is what is called a gift. You need to declare that. You need to say that. And you need to let your solicitor know, as well as your mortgage advisor know. The gifter, the person who's giving you this money, needs to also go through money laundering and ID checks so that we can do a source of funds checks on where that money is coming from, what the source. And I appreciate it. None of us enjoy going through all that detailed and personal information, but we have to. And I have a lot of people. I had a young guy call and he was like, my parents are giving me $60,000 and they find this invasive. Okay, well, would you like to buy a house? And would you like to use that $60,000? Because we have no options. Like, if you want to use it, your parents have to do an ID check. They have to provide bank statements, and we have to go and understand where that money came from. Everybody has to do that, and you're not unique.
I always say to that, well, blame the regulator, don't blame us. I actually don't want to spend most of my time doing this, and I'm not the police.
And you're not questioning
You're like a forensic
I'm not questioning their integrity.
No.
And the other thing is, if it's maybe granny and grandpa who are giving the money and they're older, and they can't do things like that online, tell us, because we can all help.
Absolutely.
And everything. But
it's letting us know as quickly as possible.
So what you really need right at the beginning.
Go early.
Go early.
And
again, the solicitors should be saying, where's your money coming from? What's the source of funds? And I do always say, I am sorry, this is so intrusive, but I've got to ask you. And most people understand. And then once you say, well, Granny's giving me this money or whatever, then that triggers all the source of funds.
We can work out a plan of action.
I find it quite astonishing, the number of grannies and grandpas and all these people and parents who banks of mum and dad, banks of granny and grandpa. That is more than half first-time buyers. Very high number. Rely on that nowadays.
Which is a shame, isn't
it? It is a shame.
I think as well, it's overseas funds as well. If you have first-time buyers and they maybe originate from outside of the UK but are buying their first home here, and they might have parents that are in Italy or somewhere else in the UK, or excuse me, in Europe, it's being aware of where that money's coming from as well. So
it's like a jigsaw.
Okay.
Together.
Right, question for you. we've spoken about the offer being accepted, we've gone through the process. Can we just jump back to costs, just so we're clear for first-time buyers again, just make sure that there's no hidden extras here. So what sort of costs for the first-time buyer?
Professionally, a lawyer must, at the earliest possible opportunity, send out terms of engagement, including an estimate of costs.
So if you were to put an offer in for a client, no charge?
No, most solicitors, I certainly don't charge. I don't think
they call that they do call that a fixed rate conveyancing, meaning that they'll basically quote. So I'll just give you rough figures. So say you're buying at £200,000, a solicitor may quote their fixed rate conveyancing being $11,950 plus VAT plus outlays. I'm just throwing out random figures, and from that it's based on £1,195 plus VAT is there for their work. To give advice on the offer, to put notes of interest, to do the kind of, as Aileen was talking about, the title checks, the search reports, things like that, to do all the check through the money laundering source of funds. But then there will be additional outlays such as...
Are these payable at the end then?
They're payable, but again, I can only speak for my firm, but your firm will be similar. Will be similar, and I think most lawyers are the same. You need to be paid along with your deposit. You need fees. You need your LBTT, your land building transaction tax if applicable, and all the other disbursements. So what you should get a couple of days before at least, but you'll in your estimate of costs, it will be down, so you know roughly how much.
And you've been told this way earlier.
Way earlier.
You'll have a breakdown.
So no surprises policy.
So no surprises. There's sometimes a surprise because we can't help it.
Sure.
But generally, you should know fairly early on. You should know almost, but when you offer,
give or take,
give or take, what your costs are going to be, and the costs have got to be paid up front.
Okay.
So say for example you're buying at £200,000 and your deposit's 10%. So she'll work out to say, well, here's your. I'm just going to throw out fees. £3,500 for all the costs for the legal conveyancing, the outlays, and then so you'd add that onto your 10% deposit. So you'd come out to it
23.5.
Yeah, and Aileen would say, I need that deposit transferred into our client account because that pays for your 10% deposit to get the mortgage, and it covers the legal conveyancing, my fees to buy the property. And so that's really what they would do on it. So yes, you would pay that a couple days in advance, but obviously if the transaction doesn't go forward, you get that money back onto it. And really that's how it is. So that's
you would know in advance of somebody handing you over the money whether it's going to go ahead or not.
But if you've offered on 3 properties, and I say extremely unlikely you're not going to get one of them, but let's say you haven't, you're not running up the bill at this point.
We're not running a meter.
Okay,
and that's my favorite is I'll get people, because I have a lot of buyers saying, oh, can I offer to you directly? So if I'm the selling agent, can I offer to you directly? And I was like, well, I would want to see the offer come through from your solicitor. Oh, no, they charge. And I was like, most don't. Just go and have a chat with them, but most don't.
Most don't.
There are some that are a bit more traditional and they charge per hour, and that's fine, and that's your prerogative.
I don't know any who charge by hour. Solicitors charge. Broadly, we charge a fixed fee.
I think most of them who don't have an estate agency department tend to do some of that.
Sometimes what you will do is you say, well, this is on the basis that the transaction is reasonably straightforward. If it turns out to be one of life's horrors,
which is highly
rare, but
highly unusual. But you would have a conversation with your client. I've just done one recently, and I had a conversation with the client to say, look, this was quoted on the basis to go to A to B. It went AZ and back because it was one of those. And he was perfectly comfortable about it because he knew how much work we'd done.
The next thing we were wanting to ask was about kind of following on from the costs. Do buyers, you mentioned fixer-uppers before, how that's slightly less popular now, but do buyers, or first-time buyers in particular, underestimate the costs that they need for moving in?
Most first-time buyers now have furniture, most of them, and they can beg, borrow and steal and that sort of thing. But what you have got to realise is you are not buying a perfect house. So when the people move out, there are going to be scuffs in the wall. There are going to be wee cracks and bits and pieces. Now, it's very important to know that the set, and this is in what we call Scottish Standard clauses. This, and unless this is removed by the sellers, which is very unusual, the seller is only responsible for any defects in the property which will cost more than £500 to rectify. And when we say defects in the property, we generally mean the systems and the central heating.
Yeah.
So if you move in and one of the radiators is not working, and actually if you bleed it, it's going to work, and you've had to get a plumber who says it's 50 quid. I don't know if you could find a plumber for £50, but anyway, but you know, it's 200 quid. Well, I'm terribly sorry, but that's tough luck.
Yeah.
If, however, the whole system is not working
Yeah.
and a new boiler is needed, yes, that would be what's called a claim. But you've got to be aware that you can't say, well, the boiler's 15 years old, I want a new one. If the boiler works, that's not a claim.
And what's the time?
5 working days.
5 working days.
Yeah.
5 working days. No guarantee is given on appliances. So if your washing machine when you move in doesn't work, that's tough luck, because you can buy a new washing machine.
Yeah.
So to answer your
Is
question,
a
I've gone a
boiler
bit...
an appliance?
The boiler is not an appliance. So to answer your question all a bit roundabout, I think quite a lot of first-time buyers think they're walking into the equivalent of a new house. Now, if you're buying a new build, you shouldn't have any problems.
No.
And if you're buying what I call a second-hand new build, you shouldn't have any problems. But if you're buying an older property in George Street and you're finding that the washing machine doesn't work and there's scuffs and there's a bit of painting needing done, you will have to pay for that.
I would say as well, it's cost of moving. If you are coming from a furnished rental, it's organizing movers. A good tidbit I always say to clients is try to do your date of entry not on a Friday.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, and when I say this to a lot of sellers, they're like, oh, I didn't know this, right? I chat to buyers about it, is because Friday, for whatever reason, tends to be the Edinburgh day. And so I think it's a lot of times because if you're taking off, you've got the weekend to move.
Yeah.
But also, if the sale doesn't happen, if the transaction doesn't happen, you don't have anywhere to go at the weekend. You're maybe one of 20 settlements that day. So I always say to clients, try a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. You also will tend to get cheaper moving costs.
Just say you get a better deal.
Yeah, because a lot of the movers
deal.
are like, yay, somebody wants to go not on a Thursday or Friday. And I also say, especially as a first-time buyer, you will never probably get this chance to slowly and gradually move. If you're at your parents' and you're doing that move slowly, or if you're going from a rental, you also, another kind of factor to cost factor in is don't give your notice on your rental until you are certain that it's going to go ahead. And you probably will never get this overlap again. So try to have at least a 2-week overlap. I know that every penny counts. I really do. And I'm right there with you. But if you can, please try to build yourself that buffer. Yeah. So if your missives don't conclude on your purchase until a week before your settlement or your date of entry, then issue your notice. You get a 4-week notice, and take that time if you're wanting to paint the flat. I know that there's that extra expense, but you've got that to do, and you can slowly get moved. You can check everything over. But I've seen so many times where first-time buyers issue their notice, the sale doesn't settle on that day, and they're just left, and it just adds that extra bit of stress.
Yeah. I always say, do not give your notice till I tell you can give your notice. Don't do it. Because I think as well, with experience, although maybe the contract isn't legally concluded, you can gauge very quickly whether it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. No, I mean, we've all had the nightmare scenarios of people having nowhere to stay, and you think, oh my God, they're going to have to come and stay with me.
Well, you personally?
Yes.
I have people at our office.
It's not happened, but you've been close to it.
We have people at our office that it's like 4:45 on a Friday, and they're crying,
really
and you're just going, we're gutted, we can't do anything, we're trying our best, and if your money hasn't come through, and especially if there's a chain involved in that, and I appreciate, obviously, from a first-time buyer perspective, it might not be the same because you're usually the start of the chain, but it can be really stressful there. I've also seen from them moving in, I've had a situation where I've sold a property, it was first-time buyer who bought it, and the sellers did not get out of the property quick enough, and because they were still moving, and I'm like, no. I always recommend to my sellers, clear out the night before, put your stuff in the van or put it in storage. First of all, go get an Airbnb or a hotel and just treat yourself that night, or worst case, sleep on an air mattress. But the minute that transaction completes, and it can happen anytime from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
You want to be good to go.
100%. Because as soon as they say that's the money across, that's cleared, buyer, you can come pick up your keys, they become the new owner, and you shouldn't be in that property. And I think also so many sellers forget that they were once first-time buyers and in that experience. And I did one in Portobello once, and luckily the first time buyers were staying with their family, and it was 7 o'clock and they still couldn't get in on a Friday night, and the sellers were like, it is my stuff, I'm not moving. And I thought, you're going into a new build, and how would you feel if that builder said it's not ready, even though you were the owner? So it's tough.
It doesn't happen a lot.
No,
but it happens.
Those rare occasions.
I've had 2 occasions like that in the last 6 months, and it's just
maybe not as rare.
No, but it's downright bad behaviour.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. But give yourself a bit. And most first-time buyers say it's fine. Look, we're going to maybe take an extra couple of weeks until we move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick fire round.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to finish up, we've got 3 questions. Quick fire.
Let's see if we can make the hour in this way.
So, what is the one thing every first-time buyer should do before they go to a viewing?
You go first.
Download the home report and have them speak to a solicitor.
Oh, before they go to the viewing, I check out the area, guys. Check out the area. Know what's there, because I have so many. Or read the online advert, because I have so many people. I didn't realize it was a top floor flat.
Or I didn't realize it 3 bedrooms instead of 2.
Yeah,
we'll read it.
Yeah, we get that a lot. I'm like, oh, it says 4th top floor or 3rd top floor. I didn't like that much stairs. I was like, oh, okay, this is fun. Yeah. Read the advert.
Okay, one common myth you want to bust.
Oh, it's not like location. It's not like Homes Under the Hammer, and it's not like Selling Sunset. No, it's definitely not like that.
Mine is every property goes to a closing date. It doesn't. Yeah. So a lot of them, I would say the majority of properties don't go to a closing date, and the majority of properties, sellers are happy to look at an offer straight away.
And you can offer at any time until the closing date is set.
Yeah.
Once the closing date is set, you cannot offer.
Yeah.
And if any solicitor takes an offer, I think I'm right in saying that's a professional misconduct.
Yeah.
And final question, what is one small step
for mankind
that a first-time buyer can make that makes the biggest difference?
Oh, I would say if it's the seller that you're meeting at the viewing, endear yourself to them. Tell them a little bit about you, because I've had some sellers choose an offering party because they really liked them.
I'd agree with that.
If you, like, especially from, I'm doing one today, and the guy was like, we would love them. We got along really well. They came back for a second viewing, and when I told them the name of the offer, like who it came in, they went, oh, we loved them. We'd love them to get it. And I think that you just underestimate. This is probably it. Don't do a poker face, guys. Like, we see right through that. Yeah. And sometimes that can go well against you, but endear yourself to them. Yeah, be yourself. Be yourself.
I think be very much don't be too open with sellers, because who blinks first. But set your expectations. Don't think that this may be the forever house, because it probably isn't. And if you can't get to the forever house, maybe just go one step back and go up the market.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
That. Thank you.
I think we covered a lot of ground there. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It was a really great conversation, and hopefully the first-time buyers listening and watching
we have to list back all of the little sayings that we got in this
there was
one.
A lot of wisdoms there.
Ding, ding. We've got to list them. We've got to. That is your task when you're done editing this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, really
you can put that as a strap line.
Yes, they're so good. The isms we learned. Yes.
Absolutely. But thank you.
Well,
Really
thank you
appreciate
guys.
it.
very much.
Really
Take care.
appreciate it.
Well, there you go.
I know.
Some great nuggets though. Lots of really solid advice. A few myths busted. Things that, just that go early thing, I think just comes through loud and clear, doesn't it? Go and see your solicitor very early on.
Yeah, a really interesting episode, and hope you also felt that way too.
We can make that into an entire series.
Yes, I know. Thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever you are doing so. If you could hit subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, we would be really, really grateful. And we will be back again not next week, in a fortnight's time with our next episode.
Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.